All right. Hey, everybody. Suzanne Carowin here with Vitrio. Let's go ahead and get all of that shared. Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to talk about a topic that is a bit of a bugaboo to me because for whatever reason, and you tell me if this is wrong, if this is a false statement, please write me. My email's at the bottom of the screen. But for whatever reason, I've worked in associations for many, many years on both sides, both on the association side and the consulting side to it. And for whatever reason, we tend to not think about e-commerce. We hear that word, we hear carts, abandoned carts, all these triggered events. We go, that's not us. But hopefully today, I want to start to convince you that it should be us because we're leaving a lot of money on the table. And so again, we're going to talk about things that are already available to you in your association management system. We're here to help, of course, if you need that help, et cetera. But for some reason, and again, I want to know if I'm wrong, but somehow the entire website, and then you get into the actually purchasing, and whether we're talking about purchasing membership, conference events, meeting events, professional development, certifications, whatever it is that you're selling, right? Somehow it goes into a black box. And we don't tend to spend a ton of time in the association market of really unpacking that and talking about what we can do with it. But I'm here to tell you that there's so much more we can do with it, especially with AI. So it's a really dynamic place. And for all of you who are like, what can we do to grow membership? What can we do for event sales, right? Like we're trying to get our conference registration going. And we know people go and look at the agenda, right? How can we speed up that conversion so they actually register and don't try to play the system and wait to the last minute? We know the drill, right? Etc. So let's talk about that and the abandoned carts and the stories they tell. So again, we're reframing. Yes, you are in e-commerce. Okay. So I'd like to just say, let's just talk about it because, and you don't have to get into the world of e-commerce, which is, maybe you're thinking, oh, we're not on Shopify. That's not us. So I have to tell you, there's many an association is starting to actually dip their toe in the water of Shopify, or they already are running HubSpot. And HubSpot has an entire kind of e-commerce cart module that you can add in there or add in very easily. Or they're starting to rethink that and say, hey, maybe we could, unplug what we currently have and plug in something else. Or maybe you love your association management system. Typically, it's so bundled into your accounting system that you cannot decouple them. And I'm not trying to convince you should. I'm trying to convince you, let's do more with what you've already got. You've got that investment. You've got this beautiful system that's all connected with website now, content, products, etc. Let's do more with it. Okay. And so a lot of that is just kind of rethinking it. So again, if you have any of these things up on the screen, from you're selling advertising, everybody's selling event registration, almost everybody's selling some sort of, either you're the donor side or you're the membership side, courses, etc. You're in the world of e-commerce, right? And we can learn more about our actual users and who are going to this, etc. Now, many of you will say, well, we only think of this e-commerce when we go to our annual meeting and we set up like our bookstore. Yeah, for sure. That's true e-commerce. You somehow have your point of sale system at that point. But I'm talking about all year throughout and what we have there that we are doing, that we are selling things online. So again, how can we get really good at doing that? And so part of that is, again, just, for one, bringing the different component people to the table. So bringing marketing together with, if you have a business development or sales team, with your IT team, right? Whoever's making that magic happen. But this is a MarTech endeavor. You need all of these pieces really connecting. And I think that's one of the reasons that it hasn't been quickly adopted in associations, maybe the really big ones. And people say, oh, that's only for big associations that have huge budgets and lots of staff. No, this is actually probably the most economical thing you can do in an association, is get these systems interconnected and get them actually working together. And again, in today's world with, oh my gosh, with the advent of AI and all the different ways that you can interconnect apps between social media, your entire MarTech stack, you absolutely should do this. And why? Because look at this math. This is brutal, right? So we are leaving, like I said, so much money on the table. So whether your organization is actually actively spending money in advertising, or it's not. And the spend, you still have spend, right? You have your personnel cost, which is the highest for most associations. So whether you're actually doing that or not, we need that return on investment. And so each person that comes to our website is critical in the association nonprofit world, because that could be either a member who we need to retain, right? Or a potential member or donor. And so we need, or buyer, right? A customer. So we need to make sure that we're knowing everything we can about them, right? We are tracking them down and servicing them the best we can. And hopefully we're delighting them somewhere along the way. So that the math there is, if you look here at Baymard, their stat is 70% of online shopping carts are abandoned before checkout. Okay, that is an abysmal figure, especially if you're in the world of not-for-profit. So we need to say, can we reduce that 70%? And of course, we know we could do it. Like if, for example, if we were in our bookstore on our trade show floor at our conference, and someone walked up to us and then they started to U-turn and walk away from us, we probably wouldn't just stand there. We'd say, hey, hold on a second, right? What are you looking for? What can I do to help you? You know, and get them involved in conversation, get them to start telling you what they're thinking, who they are, get to know them. You would take that as an absolute opportunity because they walked in to start to pick up a book or what have you. Okay, it's no different in the world of digital. So as soon as they have any sort of touch point, they've come to your as soon as they get to your site, right? Maybe you have like lucky enough that they actually clicked on an email and you know the person, you know, as soon as but they're out there, they click on social media, whatever you can do to bring them back to your site so you can start to identify them. That's where we need to say, what are we doing to make sure we're engaging them, right? And we hear about engagement and retention. So we need to really get good at that and say, do we have every touch point we can to make sure? And again, in the world of digital now, you'll start to hear people talk about their telemetry and their telemetry dashboards, right? And there's all these amazing tools out there now. Big one's called Grafana. There's dashboards, but Microsoft Clarity is making a real play for it. If you're not using that, we'll do another webinar in Microsoft Clarity because it's amazing and free. So it's perfect for the not-for-profit world, especially if you're already running your Microsoft platform. But anyway, so if you're looking over at the industry as a whole, right, we're talking about all kind of e-commerce, $260 billion in lost revenue. So some slice of that belongs to those association and nonprofits. And I would argue that, you know, we need it more than anyone, right? Because we're doing mission-driven work. So we need to figure out how we can, if anyone has a PK of any little bit of interest, we want to make sure we can draw them in and engage them. Abandoned carts, the bottom line is they already got to your site. They were already looking at something. So we have some sort of, you know, ability there to say, again, think of the bookstore example, to draw them in and engage them. It's 3 times cheaper to recover an abandoned than somebody that's completely net new, right? Makes sense. So if I'm sending out, you know, digital marketing advertising I'm paying for, I'm just blanketing, hopefully I'm targeting people, but that's more expensive than somebody who already came to my site. That is a huge opportunity for me to reach back out to them and pull them in. And again, 45% average open rate on cart recovery email, right? Klaviyo is giving a benchmark there. Klaviyo is one of the best in breed standards in the overall e-commerce world as an example. Most of you have an email system in place, whatever it is you're using, that's kind of more in the association industry side. But I almost guarantee whatever you're running, whether it's HubSpot or you're running you're running a different email platform, I almost guarantee at this point you've got some marketing automation built in there, and we can make it do the exact same things that Klaviyo is doing, right? So Klaviyo is really well known for abandoned carts, for having pop-ups, you know, to engage you when you first log in and get you to subscribe and give you coupons and then track you and do multi-touch point kind of email campaigns. But in reality, almost every system nowadays has these capabilities in it, right? It's become a pervasive thing. It's just, are we actually setting them up to actually work for us? And the answer is typically no. Don't feel bad about that. Why aren't more organizations setting up all of these drip campaigns and all of these funnels and all these things that sound great? Because automation is difficult, it's tricky, and it's a totally everybody's scared to turn it on because you don't want to email the wrong person accidentally, right? Because especially in a membership donor environment, that could be just terrible. So it's a tricky thing to do. So don't feel bad if you don't have all this set up, but you know it's possible. That's why most people partner with an organization like Vitrio to do that work with them so we get the data right, because it's always about the data. Always about the data. If you don't understand, you need the data perfect, and then you need to have perfect logic, right? And put those together. So it's a different way of thinking. So don't feel bad if you're not doing that, because that's actually far more the norm than not. But if you can get it set up right, like all technology, when it works, it's a thing of beauty. And it really is just as simple as saying, when somebody comes to our cart, if they put something in cart and then they walk away, do we have an email that sends out to them to bring them back? Are we then taking that email address? Are we harvesting it, putting it back into targeted social media, or putting it back into an overall prospect campaign set, right? Do we have a way that we can identify they didn't even get to the cart, but they got to the site? And that's where it really gets interesting. So let's talk a little bit about what your AMS really can do for the cart, right? So you're going to have all of these abilities in that cart, whether you're using it or not. Every cart has this ability to hold these objects of whatever they're looking for. Should they get into the cart, right? That they can actually then do something with it, because we've got actionable data. And from that data, we can do things like trigger, like I said, you could trigger an email to go out, email series. You could take that data and you could push it over into what's called a retargeting handoff and put it out into Meta or LinkedIn or Google, or sometimes people are starting to actually, this is kind of a new idea maybe, but they're starting to actually say, why don't we do hyper focused advertising when we get a little bit closer to the event, so I can actually do a geolocation kind of push. So meaning, like, as we get closer to the date of the event, right, the likelihood that people are going to go book airfare or book long travel really reduces. So why not actually shrink the bubble of where I'm targeting and actually go much more local, right? And one thing you can do there is to be able to trigger out of the cart to then, you could, of course, use things like Meta, but you could also get really local and use things like you haven't thought about, like maybe Eventbrite or Yelp or Nextdoor, and actually get, or like Reddit, and get like super targeted, because everything now has the ability to have an advertising platform. Okay, you can also then go into other pieces here, and your AMS might have things like it has cart intent, and maybe I can pull out that data. But the thing that the AMS has that's better than any for-profit system out there, I would argue, unless we're like at the level of Amazon, but what associations have in their beautiful AMSs is all the data about that person. And you likely might have 30 years worth of data on that one individual person. It's just, again, can we now actualize that data? Can we activate it? Can we get it out and make it work for us, so we're understanding what's called that cart intent? And likely your cart might also have like a buy X, get Y, right? If you buy two, get one free, send to a friend, any of those types of bundlings, etc., are there. So it might be just a good one to kind of sit back and talk to your AMS provider, right? Look at the software you've got and say, what can this thing do? And what kind of data can we get out of it now, so we can make sure that we can interconnect these things? Because everything now is about being interoperable and having these systems talk to each other. And even if they're not natively meant to anymore, the likelihood is that with AI and if you have the right know-how of integration, you can get them to talk to each other. And I've been in this racket for a long time. So historically, there are many association management systems that you couldn't do that with. Today's world of AI, it's a game changer, especially for not-for-profits who don't have massive budgets, right? And I'll tell you a secret, on the for-profit side, nobody has massive budgets there either, again, unless you're in this like whole, top layer. And even then, everybody is always pinching, always looking at ROI, always pinching a penny. All right. And then finally, also, we're going to get a little bit more into this. about talking about these lookalike audience, right? And you'll hear people say lookalike audiences are dead. No, they're definitely not. Especially, I say this especially for associations and nonprofits. Okay. And that is because to find people that are like-minded, the association nonprofit people that get into those, that become members, that actually buy things, etc., they are kind of that do-gooder nature people, and they typically know people who are like them, who are also do-gooders, right? So kind of birds of a feather flock together. So it's one of those things we're going to look at to say, how can we really leverage that? Okay, so 8 ways to get them back. So the person came to the site, right? And then they did something. If you're lucky, they dropped something to basket. But if not, they probably touched something. So whether they searched for something, whether they clicked on a page, they got to a landing page, etc., all those things would be ideal for us to get to know them. What would be the most ideal, of course, would be that they actually dropped something into the basket and then left it. That would be ideal because you actually know, what they wanted to buy, and you could bring that back to them. It would be even more ideal if you know who they are, which you might. Okay, but even if they didn't, the best next way would be like we could actually use search to actually see what they're looking for. So put a pin in that, we'll come back to it. But 8 ways you can get them back, just so everybody kind of understands. It's like the typical go-to is I had something in my basket or cart. We use those terms interchangeably, and I left. I know who they are because maybe they logged in or they're a member or we have a cookie on them or something, and I can send out a trigger email sequence. Now, this is complete best practice. 1/24/3. So 1 hour after it, you're saying, hey, did you forget something in your basket? And the key with these emails that we're talking about in this triggered sequence is actually to take the time. And again, email auto notifications and association management systems. This is almost, I think, true everywhere. All of them can be customized. How much time do we take to sit down and customize them and really give them personality? Again, typically not so much. If we really now want to maximize our spend, let's spend some time doing that and give it some personality, give it some brand feel to it, right? So again, a 1 hour post, I dropped it in the cart. It's an hour. I didn't actually check out. The system sends an email saying something snappy and fun, etc., right? Like, forget what you're doing, so you have to figure out what works for your audience, but it could be something better than you left the cart, right? You could actually imbue it with your brand and get very, clever with it. And that's, of course, what big brands do. And that's why we like them so much, right? So if you're shopping at, whatever, think of your favorite big reseller online, probably all of their stuff it really is on brand and it fits with their whatever it is that they're kind of the shtick that they have in their brand. Number 2, another way. So we've got email. Next way would be to send text messages, and text messages are game changers for associations and nonprofits. The issue is that many of us have not been collecting those over the years, and so we've got all these emails, and of course email is now flooded with all sorts of other emails, so it's become far more restrictive, opening the path for SMS, but many of us have not collected mobile numbers and the requisite permissions. So if you haven't been doing that, let's do it, because again, that's a great personal way, especially as we go down in age, to be able to reach the member, to be able to get them to renew, be able to say like, hey, I saw that you were shopping for this. Do you still want this? Whatever the case might be. Maybe you see them, they're doing a series of kind of touching base, and you can see that they're thinking about getting that certification, but maybe your certification is a 6-month process and it's got a pretty big price tag on it. So you need to kind of give them some of those encouraging words to say like, hey, are you still thinking about it? Like, based on what we know about you, you're a great candidate for XYZ certification, and start to build up that confidence, right? Or at the right time, try to put in an alternative, like maybe it's too much that they don't have. Let's say your certification is $2,000. They don't have $2,000 right up front. Maybe along the way, you can tell them, hey, did you know we could break that into payments? Whatever the case might be, the SMS is a great way to help bring people back to the website, back to the cart, and get them to go over and convert. We talked a little bit about retargeting ads. So again, I was in the cart, I had something I was interested in, or I was shopping for it, and I can see that by what, search queries I put in, etc. And I'm triggering it out to have a retargeting ad. And those are those ads that all of a sudden show up, like you're in whatever, Yahoo, you're in LinkedIn, you're in some sort of Google application, and all of a sudden, you're in Meta, so you're in Facebook or Instagram, and all of a sudden you see this ad and you're like, I was just looking at something like that. And that's that retargeting piece. So all those things you can kind of connect into that. Another thing to do that's a really easy one and likely built in, it's probably not part of your association management system, but it probably is very likely something you can enact through your marketing automation system, whether that's HubSpot or you're using any of the plethora of marketing automation systems out there, is that when you're going to exit, you can act. So the person has dropped it in cart or they're on their website and they're now trying to leave, right? And the website knows that because they can watch that user journey, and they're watching that mouse move or their finger move or the stylus move, and they're ready to get out of there and go up to that top right corner for the X. Right then is a great time to pop up something to get them interested, to get them to stay, right? And that's such an easy thing to implement. I love the pop-up boxes and the drop-ins and all those things you can do with it. And there, of course, there's cons, but there's a lot of pluses. For a marketer, when I can get something moving in front of the user's face to get them to get awareness of something else is going on, like, hey, here's our countdown clock to our annual event. Whatever I can do to get them to engage and get the user to disrupt them a little bit to get in front of what I'm trying to get in front of them, it's a good thing. And especially because you've got that data from your data-rich association management systems, you can really do great personalization nowadays with all of these tool sets that are available to you. Okay, so this is a great way to be able to do that. You can also, of course, do save for later. Now, this probably is a feature of your cart. So I'm in the cart and there's a button that says, do you want to save for later? Or sometimes it's called add it to your wish list, right? Or you can say, hey, do you want to come back? And when they come back, it's just one click right to the cart. Okay, that becomes something that is usually part and parcel of the cart functionality. But if not, you could build it in, etc. And then, of course, starting to actually build in personalization and AI into it. So, for example, what many people do is you could do this. You could say, if you can get the data from your cart and it's there, you just have to know how to get it, but I'm almost guarantee that you can pull it out of all the people that got to the cart that you can identify. And maybe even if you could pull the other data and you had like IP address, and we could do a AI kind of figure out who the person is, or at least close enough to them. But you can do that now. But you would pull all that out of those people. And of course you could directly email them or SMS, text message them, or something of that effect. And hey, you could use direct mail too if you can get to that type of address. But you can also take that data, put it back into a LinkedIn, a Facebook, etc., and do a lookalike audience build off of that, right? To get to even more people. So you're like, people like this were interested in shopping. I need to expand that. I'm going to create a lookalike audience on that and put it back out into my other channels that I'm using to prospect. Okay, so we keep alluding to this AI kind of shift, etc. And I want to kind of take a moment to talk about what AI can now really do. And again, it's just magical for the nonprofit association world, because you can be able to identify these people who are interested in your mission-driven work, right? And so hopefully pull them into whatever it is. So if you're a lobbying organization, that's incredibly important to know, right? If you're trying to, again, get your certifications, you're trying to grow membership, all those things are incredibly important. And so what you can do nowadays, and I'll just stop a minute. I'm sure you've heard by now that AI, like you need to be one found within the AI platform. So let's say ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or Perplexity or whichever one you're using, Copilot, Gemini, those are kind of hit the major ones there. So, and hopefully you've heard that it's not the same search as you're getting found in like a Google, right? So it's not the same search indexing and crawling. You need to actually structure your site, including your products, including everything you've got on there, so that it's actually now can be absorbed and consumed by these AI platforms. It's actually not a tremendous switch in some ways, but you need to do a different kind of file that's going to structure your data in a way that the AI platform can understand it and categorize it and understand what's in your website, your product set, etc. So there's a couple ways to do that. One is to add this additional kind of file that's explaining to these things, these AI platforms, what it is that your site and it has. There's another way to do it too, which is come to the market, which is super cool, which is basically there's AI tools now that will just take your website and create a copy of it structured specifically for AI. Okay, which is amazing. You don't have to actually do anything, which is the best part. So all the decades of content you have out there, all those things, and here's such, and it depends how old you are, but for me, who've been around this market a long time, the irony of the statement I'm about to make, because it had been for so long that so many 5, 6 years, 7 years, associations felt forced to purge all that data, right? And purge all the content you had on your website and say, oh, we don't need all this stuff. Let's go to the next platform and dump it all. And of course, now the irony is AI can handle all that stuff with ease. So you don't, and the storage has come down in price. So actually, if you still have it, you're in great luck because now AI can really amass it and be able to do something with that. And we'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, so AI, again, has the ability now, you can structure your site, right, to make sure that the platforms find it. So your ChatGPT, Perplexities, and Geminis, and Claudes, and Copilots, et cetera, can come in there. People can find you, number one, right? Get to your site. You still don't know who they are, but they can start to use all of these tools that are out there to identify who they are or their best guess as to who they are. Okay. And you can do all these kind of reverse IP, CRM enrichment things to do that. And what you end up getting, right, often is an actual spreadsheet with all this data about these people that previously were unknown. Okay. Now, if you're a marketer and you're trying to grow, I mean, your heart is beating very fast right now. I'm getting teary eyed. You're like, oh my gosh, because now you can do something with it. And oftentimes the data, like the tools I use, the data comes back and I've got email address, I've got home address, I've got the, household size, right? What kind of mobile iOS they're using. You get all sorts of data to which you can now take action. And whether you're going to use it directly and go after them, excuse me, or you're going to build lookalike audiences or go about it just to study it, you can use that a couple different ways. I just am trying to let you know those tools and those techniques are out there and they are so perfect for associations and nonprofits because we need every dollar so desperately that this, if they can get to you, one, we need to be found and be competitive, but it allows us, the AI field, as much as there's like more subscriptions to add, it really can create a real level playing field. I think I would purport for associations and nonprofits because of the fact that what associations and nonprofits have are experts, content, right, and very specific products and services that they offer. And that becomes a real point of differentiation and a selling point from which you can use that as leverage to be competitive. All right, so let's talk quickly about how retargeting actually works in social, because I think this is, again, it's so theoretical and you can't ever see it working. And oftentimes, like, you just don't have all of these things set up together. And again, I'll just kind of tell you again, like Vitrio is one of the best kept secrets in the association market. We've been doing this for associations for decades, actually. And it's setting up all these things. But the reason is because you need that in-between knowledge about marketing and technology to be able to do some of these pieces. And it's like most people that are good at content and graphic design don't know this piece. And then maybe your IT people, maybe they're more like hardware systems people, and they don't know this software part or this application development integration part. And so it's that type of things. And that's why it's a specialization. But we do it. We consider it kind of dirty work. It's an in-between work, but we do that very well. So what happens here is that a real abandoned cart fires, right, events into your data layer. So what does that mean? It means the user is there, they visit the site, they drop a product to the cart, etc. And then there's something there, usually a pixel or some sort of tag. There's all sorts of ways that it's done, but there's something in there that's waiting for that. And when it identifies it or it senses it, it will actually then say, dook, and it'll pick it up, and it will then take it to the next step, right? So somewhere along this, we're daisy chaining all these systems together, and we're moving the data through the systems. So that's the key, is how do we correctly daisy chain it together so we don't lose the identifying criteria of that individual, and we're able to then move it through a system to be able to personalize it and get to know them. So the pixel or the tag fires, it goes out, maybe it builds the audience, right? It builds the email, et cetera. It triggers that and it says, hey, time to go and send out the SMS message to this individual person at this either, mobile number or email address, or here's their IP, identifying thing into their social media. And then it's going to be able to take that and actually place it right there. And then when that person sees the email, SMS, ad, et cetera, the link that it's given to them, regardless of what channel it's being used, is going to bring them back in to that cart. That is ideal. That closes the loop. The person's like, oh, like I totally forgot to buy this, right? Oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Or I can buy it today. Or you could say right then, because I'm in the cart, and you could say like, yep, you know what? I do want that certification, but I want to put it on a pause and I want to wait list that thing, or I want to say I want to put it on my wish list, and this would be a next level. Remind me in 6 months, 3 weeks, right? 2 days, etc. Maybe I don't get paid till Friday, so I need to wait until Friday. All those types of things to make it more actionable is something to consider. And by the way, on a total side note, because this is in the for-profit world all over the place, I'm sure you can see, you can split payments now for anything. You see that all over the time. You want to split your rent, you want to split, break that into, a firm. If you ever see that breaks into all these different payments for whatever it is you're trying to buy, you're starting to see associations adopt that too. Right. And that's kind of a different model and different thinking, but people are starting to realize, oh, all these things add up, and they buy differently. They don't budget and spend the same way. So something you might want to think about if you are doing kind of big ticket purchases like a certification program, an annual conference, those are usually big ticket items. You might want to think about doing that. All right, so the email writes itself once the cart fires, right? And so again, with AI, what's great about it is you could set out all your emails, your 4-step email or whatever, or you could just say, nowadays, it gets written on the fly by AI. So partly it gets fires in, you might have an overall template, but based on what the person and who the person is and what they were shopping for, maybe it gets written at that point that it gets triggered. So it's like, hey, they were looking at a certification. So the email is going to be written automatically for that particular certification. Maybe we know from the AMS that this person is, we know that they have a certain, like a bachelor's degree. We know how that's going to now fit in. We've already pre-trained the AI to know how the bachelor's degree fits in with the certification, or it's a regional thing, and we can just personalize that based on the input that we already know and the data we know about that person. Okay, that is next level. But with AI, it is just an easy thing to do. And so therefore, maybe because I'm looking up their record in the AMS, maybe I know that they already have a special kind of VIP status because they've been a member for, let's say, 10 years. And you can say, hey, because you've been a member for 10 years and you're now doing this, we're going to give you a loyalty, either discount or a premium or something. But you get the idea there about how much that could then be set. So again, you might have it in the system. It's going to be 1, 24, 3, and 7, but actually each email now or SMS message that gets sent out is actually personalized and created on the fly. That's the difference now of AI and what it can do, because it can read in and give you the context of the person. Okay, so that really then allows you then to then start to continue on to that incredible personalization that's now an opportunity for everyone, right? So if we can now say, get that anonymous identity, we can identify who the person is, we can then activate them, triggering these things, we can start to flank attack them, if you will, whether we're using SMS, text messaging, email, advertisement, direct mail, phone call. Let's not forget phone calls. You might want to use automated email or phone systems. You might actually want to pick up the phone and call them, because people don't answer the phone, but you might be able to leave a message and have something else that comes back. But whatever system you're going to do to get out to them, we can bring them back, right? And see if we can't get them going on what we're going to call that lead gen flywheel. So this is a great thing. I absolutely would say let's get that into play for like annual meetings, etc. It's always a struggle. It's always a struggle unless you're, there are some associations that just the things sell out instantly. For most organizations, it's a struggle to get people to come and get to the actual event in person, et cetera, and do that in enough time that you have to plan, right? Those types of things. So let's use those things, or filling up your next class, or whatever the case might be. All right, so I like to do things that are super actionable, so you can walk away with things you can do this week, or maybe for next week. But you can audit one cart. So take one cart and see, number one, can you get the data out of it? What data do you have? And again, what can the actual baseline functionality of your cart actually do? And again, don't feel bad about it. I just think that most of us, like anything we have, like Word or Excel or PowerPoint or Claude or ChatGPT, most of us just have not taken the functionality that's there to everything it can actually do. So I'm a big one of like, let's get all the value out of our investment that we possibly can, and see how we can interconnect these things, right? If you haven't installed the pixels, start installing those pixels. And I would absolutely say, if you don't have Tag Manager installed, right, you don't have some of the Google Analytics, most people do, but it's always like one person can access it. But if you haven't seen it in a while, you might want to think about that. And then I would absolutely think about adding Microsoft Clarity. And again, start to install those pixels and get them firing together, and et cetera. Get one email done, right? Look at your emails. Just take an audit of 2 to 3 of your email notifications that are automated, and see if they actually appeal to you, or they're just look like automated messages, right? Leave no opportunity to get your brand and your mission in front of your target audience, right? Always be selling, always be closing, right? The ABCs there. Build one audience, take one out and say, if we can get this one group of people, can we take it and say, right, do some sort of experiment and say, we keep seeing this type of people. What if we take them and we take $250, right? I always go to $250 as my go-to safe bet experimentational budget for digital advertising, right? If you take, because it's enough that you can get some results, but it's not like, so far gone that you're going to, break the bank. So take $250 and say, can we put something in place and actually get some sort of conversion, so we can start to understand what that looks like. Right. And then take one of our pages on our website and see what we can do there to actually capture more people. Okay. What could that mean for us? Okay. So if you look at some of the data that's out there, you're looking at 10 to 15% of abandoned cart revenue recovered, right, with a single triggered email in 1 hour. So how great would that be if you're like, look, we just keep sending these abandoned emails and 10% actually convert and register, right? Or become members or donate. That would be great. 25 to 30% recovery rate with a 3-touch email system is what Sales Cycle is saying. 20% increase in incremental recovery when we start adding text messaging in there, right? You could be able to say 2 to 3 times lift in identified visitors. So once you can do anonymous identity capture, like that's huge. And 3 to 5 times ROAS is return on ad spend on retargeting ads, right? Versus the same kind of budget. And that's from Meta and LinkedIn case data. So things to think about and easy things to say, let's use more of what we've already got. All right, now here's my pitch to you. So all of that is great. There's a whole nother way that I just want to leave you with so you understand what's out there. And so we're carrying a new product called Bring.ai. And what this does is it's super simple to install. It's putting snippet code on the site, just like you did for HubSpot or did for probably your email marketing automation system, Google Analytics, any of those, same idea. And what it does is it overlays this little search that has been trained on your particular site, whether that's the members only, whether that's your product site, your actual catalog and store site, whether it's your full site. You can decide how you want to do that and how many sites, by the way, you want to include. And now what the person does is their search interaction is really just a natural language search engine, or what we call an answer engine. And they can just actually then put in the questions that they're asking. So now they can say, like, we all have the members that can't find anything, right? We all have the leaders that are like, oh, I knew there, 12 years ago, there was this one-page thing. Where can I find it? So they can just put that question into the search engine and it will bring back those results. And the best part of it is that you, as the association nonprofit administrator there, gets to see everything that they were asking, which means that then I can identify who they are and I can actually send them back the information that they actually wanted. Or it can also show me people are searching for these things and we don't have an answer for it, right? Like we never put this online, or we didn't know maybe we should carry this product or this service. Like we weren't thinking that. And so it can give you like a real great two-way street that's a real win-win there for how to actually service clients. All right. And so let me just back up one. I think I had one more in there. And so again, yeah, so just kind of doing the summary of that, what that allows you to do is that you've got this, the cart is the conversation. I love that term. We're already doing this thing, right? So let's maximize what we already have and then put these pieces together so we have these additional data layers that we can actually work together to be able to target it and be able to give people what they want, have them come back to what they want, right? Maybe also introduce things they didn't know that they wanted, but are very akin to something that they would want. So we want to be able to do that and then use that abandoned cart, because that's a story about that individual person. Good. Every time they're in the cart and we're seeing every time really they're on their website, if we can amass that data, we can very much understand who they are and where they are in life. So if you've ever heard me talk for all these years I've been doing this, you know that my grocery store example is one of my absolute favorites, and grocery stores are incredibly good at their data science, right? Grocery store, they know all the things that you just bought. You've got the receipt, and if you just started reading receipts of who comes through the line, you can get a pretty good guess and pretty accurate, and especially if you have enough data about who that person is, where do they live, what's their household income, right? What are their hobbies? Where are they in life, right? So if you start seeing come down the belt and they've got, I don't know, 4 things of Gatorade and a big thing of water, and then they've got bananas and oranges and, sun chips, you're like, huh, right? Based on this, it looks like they're either going to like a picnic, probably a sports event for the kid, etc. Like you can start to make these guesses and these hypotheses over time. And if you have, again, enough data, they get pretty accurate pretty quickly. So those types of things is what you can use. So the same idea of the grocery store, being able to predict it, thinking of like a actual thing is the same for your association. It's no different in your association nonprofit world. You can start to actually read what they're looking at, see what they're thinking, right? You can get an idea of where they are in their career. Are they early, mid, late in the career? You can start seeing like, okay, what else have they bought? What else have they looked for? What are the committees they're in? What are the special interest groups? And you can start really making hypotheses about who you should target for that next product or service that you have, or donation tier, et cetera, for who would be interested in that. So you're just not doing the spray and pray. So these tools are there now and available. So I would love to continue the conversation. If you are so inclined, hit us up. Like I said, we're really good at putting all these pieces together. You don't need to go it alone. No one else does. So you don't need to be a hero and try to figure it all yourself. But you certainly can. And so again, we'd love to hear about your stories and love to get your feedback. So all my information is there. But with that, I'd say thank you so much. And I hope if you're coming to ASE Membership and Marketing Conference in the end of May, I'd also love to know because I will be there as well. And it's been a couple of years since I've been there, but I'm looking forward to it. So thanks everybody. Have a great weekend.